Cleopatra VII was born in 69 BC in the heart of Alexandria, a city of golden sunlight, bustling markets, and libraries that held the knowledge of the ancient world. She came into the world as the daughter of Ptolemy XII, a ruler whose reign had been marked by both wealth and instability, and whose family had long been entangled in the treacherous politics of the Ptolemaic dynasty. From the start, Cleopatra's life was framed by power, privilege, and peril. Her lineage was both a blessing and a burden, for the Ptolemies were known not only for their grandeur but also for their ruthless infighting, where siblings often turned against each other in the struggle for the throne. From a young age, Cleopatra demonstrated a mind that was both sharp and insatiably curious. She was educated in the Greek and Egyptian traditions, learning not only the arts of diplomacy, governance, and rhetoric, but also mastering languages. By some accounts, she spoke 9 tongues fluently, allowing her to communicate directly with her subjects and foreign envoys alike. In a world dominated by men and by the ever-expanding power of Rome, such skills were not just remarkable, they were essential. The Ptolemaic dynasty had long followed the traditions of sibling co-rule, a practice that often led to tension and betrayal. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, had struggled to maintain Egypt's independence amid the growing influence of Rome. When he died, Cleopatra, barely 18, faced the daunting prospect of ascending to the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. Despite their blood ties, the siblings quickly became rivals, each maneuvering for power in a palace where loyalty was fragile and alliances shifted like the desert sands. Cleopatra's intelligence and charisma became her greatest weapons. She was not content merely to inherit a crown. She sought to shape Egypt into a strong, prosperous, and respected kingdom. Her early years as queen were a delicate dance of politics, diplomacy, and strategy. While Ptolemy XIII leaned on his advisors and attempted to assert his authority, Cleopatra displayed a remarkable combination of courage and cunning, demonstrating early on that she would not be a passive ruler in a world dominated by powerful men and imperial ambitions. The political tension in Alexandria reached a critical point in 48 BC, when Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt pursuing his rival, Pompey. Cleopatra saw in Caesar not just a powerful foreign leader, but an opportunity to secure her throne and protect Egypt's independence. Her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, had no such foresight. He viewed Caesar as a threat, a man whose presence could tip the balance of power against him. Cleopatra, however, understood the stakes, and she devised a plan that would become the stuff of legend. According to the stories passed down through history, Cleopatra had herself rolled into a rug, or perhaps a large carpet, carried into Caesar's palace, presenting herself directly to the Roman general in a gesture that was both daring and ingenious. This audacious act immediately set her apart from her contemporaries, signaling not only her courage but also her cunning. She spoke with intelligence and poise, demonstrating a mind equal to any Roman strategist. Caesar, impressed by her combination of charm and brilliance, recognized in Cleopatra a ruler worthy of alliance, not subjugation. Their alliance was as much political as it was personal. Cleopatra needed Caesar's support to reclaim full control of the throne from her brother, and Caesar saw in her the chance to solidify Rome's influence over Egypt without direct conquest. Together, they orchestrated a series of maneuvers that ousted Ptolemy XIII and strengthened Cleopatra's position as sole ruler. Amid these political machinations, their relationship deepened, producing a son, Ptolemy XV Philometor Caesar, better known as Caesarion, a living symbol of the union between Egypt and Rome, and a reminder of the delicate balance of power in the Mediterranean world. Cleopatra's time with Caesar also demonstrated her exceptional intelligence and governance. She was not content merely to be a figurehead under the shadow of Rome. She implemented policies to strengthen Egypt's economy, maintain its grain supply, and ensure the loyalty of her subjects. She understood the art of diplomacy, weaving alliances and presenting herself as a ruler who could command both respect and affection. Her ability to speak directly to both Egyptian and Roman audiences, her mastery of language and culture, and her keen understanding of politics made her one of the most formidable leaders of her age. Even as she secured her throne with Caesar's support, Cleopatra remained a symbol of independence and national pride. She was acutely aware that Egypt's future depended on her ability to navigate the dangerous waters of Roman politics while preserving her kingdom's sovereignty. Every action she took, from strategic marriages to calculated displays of intelligence and charm, was designed to strengthen her position and protect her people. And it was this blend of courage, wit, and strategic brilliance that would define her legacy for centuries to come. With Caesar's backing secured, Cleopatra solidified her authority over Egypt. She ruled with a blend of intelligence, pragmatism, and flair, fully aware that her kingdom's wealth and stability were her greatest assets. Alexandria, the jewel of the Nile, flourished under her reign. Its harbors teemed with trade ships, carrying grain, papyrus, and luxury goods across the Mediterranean. Scholars, poets, and scientists flocked to the city, drawn by its libraries, temples, and vibrant culture. Cleopatra not only preserved Egypt's ancient traditions, but also embraced Hellenistic influences, presenting herself as a monarch who could bridge the old and the new worlds with grace. Cleopatra's brilliance extended beyond culture and diplomacy. She had a keen understanding of Egypt's economy, particularly the control of grain, which was essential not only for her people, but also for the sustenance of Rome. By carefully managing resources and forming strategic alliances, she ensured her kingdom remained prosperous and influential, even amid the rising tides of Roman expansion. She appeared often in public ceremonies, adorned in regal garments and jewelry, projecting an image of power, majesty, and divine authority. Yet, beneath the spectacle lay a ruler of extraordinary acumen and determination. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Egypt faced uncertainty once more. Rome was embroiled in political chaos, and Cleopatra knew that the survival of her kingdom depended on forging new alliances. It was during this turbulent period that she encountered Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals. Antony, ambitious and charismatic, recognized in Cleopatra not only a political ally, but a woman whose intelligence and presence rivaled any in the known world. Their initial meeting was charged with both strategy and magnetism, each aware of the stakes yet drawn to the other by mutual respect and fascination. Their alliance quickly grew into romance, and together they navigated the treacherous currents of Roman politics. Cleopatra bore Antony 3 children: Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene II, and Ptolemy Philadelphus, ensuring a continuation of the Ptolemaic lineage. But their union was also a political statement. Antony's commitment to Cleopatra signaled to Rome and Egypt alike that Egypt would not be a passive pawn in Roman affairs. The two rulers coordinated military campaigns, formed strategic alliances, and projected their combined power to the Mediterranean world. Their partnership was one of ambition, love, and calculated risk, a union that would become legendary. Cleopatra's life during this period was a delicate balance between personal passion and political necessity. She maintained her image as a divine monarch to her Egyptian subjects, participated in elaborate religious ceremonies, and used her charisma to command loyalty. She also navigated the complex expectations of Roman society, where her status as a foreign queen and Antony's partner drew scrutiny and hostility from rivals. Yet, she met every challenge with intelligence, charm, and unyielding determination, demonstrating that her reign was not merely a continuation of dynastic tradition, but a masterclass in leadership and survival. The rising tension between Rome and the Egyptian alliance culminated in a series of military confrontations that would seal the fate of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, saw Antony and Cleopatra as a direct threat to his consolidation of power in Rome. Their combined forces were formidable, yet Octavian's armies were disciplined, well-supplied, and strategically commanded. The stage was set for a confrontation that would decide not only the future of Rome, but the very survival of the Egyptian kingdom. The decisive encounter came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, a naval engagement on the Ionian Sea. Cleopatra commanded her fleet with precision, yet the tide of battle turned against them. Antony, desperate and determined, fought valiantly, but his forces were gradually overwhelmed. Cleopatra, recognizing the danger, took a calculated risk and retreated with a portion of her fleet, leaving Antony to face the consequences of the battle. The retreat, however, was not an act of cowardice. It was a strategic choice aimed at preserving Egypt and the possibility of regrouping for the future. Despite the defeat, Antony remained loyal to Cleopatra, returning to Alexandria to be by her side. The city, once a bustling center of culture and trade, now braced for the inevitability of Octavian's conquest. Antony, consumed by despair at their military failure, ultimately took his own life. According to historical accounts, he fell on his sword, carried by the weight of both personal grief and political defeat. Cleopatra, witnessing the loss of her lover and the collapse of her carefully constructed plans, faced a choice that would define her legacy forever. Cleopatra's decision was deliberate and dramatic. She refused to be paraded as a prisoner through the streets of Rome, a spectacle that would have stripped her of dignity and power. Instead, she chose death on her own terms. Ancient sources tell us that she allowed an asp, an Egyptian cobra, to bite her, a symbolically charged and deeply calculated act. Some historians suggest that she may have used poison instead, but the enduring image of the queen meeting her fate with the bite of a serpent captures the imagination and adds to the legend that surrounds her. In her final moments, Cleopatra embodied the intelligence, courage, and resolve that had characterized her life from the very beginning. With Cleopatra's death in 30 BC, the Ptolemaic dynasty came to an end, and Egypt became a province of Rome. Yet, though her kingdom fell and her body was laid to rest, reportedly alongside Antony in a tomb whose location remains a mystery, her story endured. Cleopatra's life, marked by brilliance, ambition, and audacity, became a symbol of defiance, love, and political mastery. She had navigated the treacherous waters of dynastic conflict, Roman power struggles, and personal desire, leaving a legacy that would echo across centuries. Her death did not silence her influence. Artists, poets, and historians have recounted her story in myriad forms, shaping the image of Cleopatra as a woman of unparalleled intelligence, captivating charm, and enduring mystery. From the coins that bore her likeness to the tales whispered through the corridors of history, she remains a figure whose life continues to fascinate and inspire. Cleopatra's final act, dramatic and deliberate, ensured that she would not be forgotten, that her story would persist, timeless and eternal, a queen whose life defied the ordinary and whose legend transcended death itself. Cleopatra's life did not end with her death. It transformed into legend. Across the centuries, she became a symbol of power, intelligence, and irresistible charm, inspiring generations of storytellers, artists, and historians. In the centuries following her demise, her story was told and retold, each era reshaping her image to reflect its own ideals and fascinations. In Roman times, she was often depicted as a seductive foreign queen, a figure whose allure had undone powerful men. Yet beyond the myths, her real legacy was far more complex. A woman who had ruled a kingdom with intelligence, diplomacy, and courage in a world dominated by men and empires. Artists of the Renaissance and Baroque periods drew on her legend to create paintings and sculptures that captured both her beauty and her regal presence. She became an icon, not just of feminine allure, but of leadership and strategy. Writers and playwrights, most famously Shakespeare and Antony and Cleopatra, dramatized her life, emphasizing the romance and tragedy that had accompanied her political endeavors. Yet even in dramatizations, the seeds of her intelligence, charisma, and political genius could not be erased. Cleopatra emerged not merely as a lover or a queen, but as a figure who had navigated the perilous currents of history with extraordinary skill. Her influence extended beyond art and literature. Cleopatra became a lens through which successive generations examined the intersections of gender, power, and ambition. She challenged assumptions about the roles of women in leadership, proving that intellect and determination could rival force and tradition. In modern scholarship, historians have sought to peel back the layers of myth to understand the real Cleopatra, a multilingual, politically astute ruler who leveraged every tool at her disposal, diplomacy, culture, alliances, and charisma, to preserve her kingdom and assert her authority. Even today, Cleopatra remains a subject of fascination. Her life continues to be studied, adapted, and reimagined in books, films, and television. Coins bearing her likeness, inscriptions in temples, and scattered historical records provide glimpses of a woman whose influence reached far beyond her immediate time. She exemplifies how history remembers not only the victories and failures of leaders, but also their capacity to inspire, intrigue, and endure in the collective imagination. Cleopatra's story is a testament to the enduring power of vision, intelligence, and audacity, a reminder that even in death, a remarkable life can echo across millennia, shaping how we understand leadership, love, and legacy. Through her achievements and her legend, Cleopatra taught the world that sovereignty is not simply inherited. It is asserted, defended, and embodied. Her life, filled with triumphs, setbacks, love, and loss, remains a story of human ambition at its most daring. From the banks of the Nile to the halls of Roman power, Cleopatra's presence left an indelible mark, ensuring that the Queen of Egypt would never truly fade into history. Time may have turned her kingdom into a province and her tomb into a mystery, but the story of Cleopatra, the woman who defied empires and captured the imagination of the world, remains eternal. Cleopatra's Egypt was a world of splendor and sophistication, where the Nile's waters nourished not only the land, but the flourishing of culture, art, and intellect. Her court in Alexandria was a hub of activity, filled with scholars, scribes, architects, and artists. The city itself was a marvel, its streets lined with grand temples, libraries filled with scrolls, and marketplaces buzzing with traders from across the Mediterranean. Cleopatra moved through this world with both elegance and authority, aware that her presence set the tone for her court and her kingdom. Every aspect of her life was infused with symbolism and ceremony. Royal audiences were occasions of careful display, where Cleopatra's dress, jewels, and even her posture communicated her status and power. She often appeared in elaborate robes woven with gold and dyed in rich, vibrant colors, wearing jewelry that signified her divinity and her connection to the gods of Egypt. Yet she also understood the subtler arts of diplomacy. A well-timed gesture, a carefully chosen word, or a private meeting with an envoy could achieve more than armies or treaties. Luxury permeated daily life in the palace. Cleopatra's personal chambers were said to be adorned with fine perfumes, intricate mosaics, and plush furnishings. She enjoyed baths scented with oils and flowers, and her diet reflected the abundance of her land, rich with grains, fruits, fish, and delicacies imported from distant lands. Scholars and advisors surrounded her, providing counsel on governance, law, and foreign affairs. But Cleopatra was no passive listener. She actively engaged with ideas, questioned proposals, and shaped decisions with her own sharp insight. Despite the grandeur, she never lost sight of the practicalities of ruling. Egypt's wealth depended on agriculture, trade, and careful management of resources, especially the grain supply, which was crucial for both her people and Rome. Cleopatra took a hands-on approach, inspecting storehouses, overseeing economic policies, and ensuring that her kingdom remained stable even amid political uncertainty. Her reign blended opulence with pragmatism, creating an image of a queen who could inspire awe while exercising effective leadership. Religion and tradition were also central to life in Cleopatra's Egypt. She participated in rituals and festivals, presenting herself as a living embodiment of the goddess Isis, reinforcing her divine authority to her subjects. Temples were not only centers of worship but also hubs of education and culture, places where scholars debated philosophy, astronomy, and mathematics. Cleopatra embraced this role fully, using her participation in religious life to strengthen her connection with the people and to assert her legitimacy as Egypt's ruler. Even amid the luxury and ceremony, Cleopatra's life was never without tension. Political intrigue, both within her family and in Rome, demanded constant vigilance. She navigated rivalries, conspiracies, and shifting alliances with remarkable skill, always aware that the survival of her reign and the prosperity of her kingdom depended on her intelligence, foresight, and courage. Her daily life, therefore, was a careful balance of splendor, strategy, and diplomacy, a reflection of the extraordinary demands placed upon one of history's most remarkable rulers. Cleopatra's life was not only defined by politics and spectacle, but also by her role as a mother. Her relationships with her children were a window into her more personal side, showing a queen who was both strategic and nurturing. With Julius Caesar, she had Caesarion, formerly known as Ptolemy XV Philometor Caesar. Though his reign was short-lived, and he was ultimately killed after Rome absorbed Egypt, Cleopatra's dedication to him reflected her desire to secure both family and dynasty. She carefully educated him, ensuring he was prepared, at least in theory, to inherit his mother's intellect and ambition. With Mark Antony, she bore 3 more children: Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene II, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. These children were symbols of the union between Egypt and Rome, as well as living testaments to Cleopatra's ability to balance political ambition with personal life. She involved herself in their upbringing, teaching them languages, culture, and courtly manners. Cleopatra Selene would eventually survive to become a queen in her own right, illustrating how Cleopatra's influence extended far beyond her own lifetime. Even amid political crises and the looming threat of Roman power, Cleopatra maintained her role as a mother. Her children were often present in court life, participating in ceremonies and witnessing the grandeur and challenges of their mother's rule. Cleopatra's personal life was therefore inseparable from her political life. Every decision she made, every alliance she formed, had the dual purpose of protecting her kingdom and ensuring the survival and status of her family. It was this careful weaving of private and public responsibility that defined her as both a sovereign and a mother, blending humanity with strategy in a way few rulers have managed. Cleopatra's life ended, not with quiet resignation, but with deliberate drama. Her kingdom, once independent and thriving, fell to the forces of Rome. Mark Antony, her ally and lover, had taken his life following a military defeat, leaving Cleopatra to face the final choice of her story. In her chambers, surrounded by the symbols of her reign and the riches of her court, she embraced death on her own terms. The asp, whether real or symbolic, became the instrument of her final act, sealing a story that would echo across centuries. Even as Egypt became a Roman province, Cleopatra's presence could not be erased. Her story, preserved in coins, inscriptions, and the chronicles of historians, became a narrative of intelligence, audacity, and enduring allure. Across time, she has been remembered as a woman who defied empires, navigated the most dangerous political currents, and commanded respect in a male-dominated world. Her life, filled with brilliance, passion, and tragedy, transformed her into a symbol of power, of cunning, and of the timeless interplay between ambition and fate. The legacy of Cleopatra stretches far beyond her death. She inspired artists, writers, and filmmakers, becoming an icon whose image has been reshaped and celebrated across generations. Yet beneath the myth lies the reality of a ruler whose intelligence, courage, and political acumen were extraordinary. She demonstrated that leadership is as much about vision and strategy as it is about birthright or brute force. Her children carried forward pieces of her legacy. Her policies and culture influenced successive generations, and her story continues to captivate historians and dreamers alike. Cleopatra's life was a masterclass in the art of survival and sovereignty, a testament to the power of intellect and charisma in shaping history. Even in death, she remained undefeated, for while her kingdom fell, her story became immortal. The Nile still flows through the land she once ruled, carrying with it the memory of a queen who defied the ordinary, whose name resonates as one of the most remarkable in all of human history. Cleopatra is remembered not only as a ruler of Egypt, but as a symbol of timeless ambition, daring, and brilliance, a queen whose legend will never fade.